The gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Carter.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Jewish religious institutions, including schools and synagogues, have seen an uptick in threats since the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel, including places like New Orleans, which I represent. The New Orleans Police Department has had to boost security around the Jewish community, and according to Interim Police Chief Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick, New Orleans Police has deployed directed patrols to ensure the safety of our Jewish institutions and communities. Similarly, we have seen an uptick in anti-Muslim threats across the country, including the tragic murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian boy in Illinois by a deranged man who was driven to kill after becoming enraged while listening to conservative talk radio. Mr. Warwick, based on your experience, how do events unfolding in Israel and in Gaza and the way news and politicians talk about these events affect Homeland Security and the threats minority communities face, and what steps should government take to ensure the safety of minority and religious institutions?
Thank you very much for that question. I completely agree with the proposition that it is important for all of our leaders to speak out against anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Americans have the tradition of expressing differences through peaceful means, but it's absolutely unacceptable when language becomes so inflamed that it encourages what are often lone actors who read these messages, consume this content to believe that they should somehow carry out acts of violence. It is deeply, deeply troubling when leaders call for violence or for measures that any reasonable person would understand would cause those who are in some ways close to the edge to go over that edge into violent actions. So the best thing that all of our leaders can do is continue to call for everyone to resist anti-Semitism, resist Islamophobia, and remember that as Americans, we settle our differences through democratic and peaceful means.
Thank you. Iran has a long history of assassination plots and targeting dissidents who live outside the country. One of our witnesses here today has been the target of a plot to kidnap her and another plot to assassinate her. We know the indictments that Iran has plotted to assassinate high-level former U.S. officials, including former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mr. Warwick, what specific U.S. counterterrorism assets or capabilities are most critical to our goal in disrupting the countering these and other threats from Iran?
I want to salute the work of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which has the lead for investigating these types of threats against the American people. The FBI has done some extraordinary work, some of which I've seen firsthand in its ability to do so. That having been said, as Ms. Alanijad said, there are limits to what the FBI is able to do, and it's clear that there do need to be additional measures taken to find ways to protect former U.S. officials and American citizens who may be threatened by outrageous actions of the Iranian regime.
For each member, very quickly, you're sitting before the Homeland Security Committee, a committee of bipartisan members with the desire to weigh in, to help. Given that you now have this audience, can you each very briefly tell us what can we do? If you had one opportunity to ask this committee to weigh in and to help, what might that ask be? Starting with you, sir.
Thank you, Congressman. I would say secure the border. Provide the authorities and resources necessary to secure the border. Thank you.
Add something. America needs to have a bipartisan strategy towards transnational repression. This is very serious that I'm not alone. I see that a lot of activists and dissidents from other countries being the target of transnational repression on U.S. soil. And we see that how Iranian, like the regime in Iran, is the alliance of dictators, autocrats, from Russia to China, to Islamic Republic. They're all helping each other, backing each other, supporting each other, but we don't see alliance of democratic countries supporting each other. Like IRGC is in the terrorist list by the United States of America, but the US must take lead and ask its allies to designate and criminalize IRGC as a terrorist organization as well, which we don't see that. And I kept hearing from the lawmakers from the United Kingdom saying that actually this is the US advising them not to lose the embassy because they have to have a channel open towards this terrorist regime in Iran.
I would echo Ambassador Sales' recommendation and add to reprioritize Palestinian terrorist groups and Iranian surrogates in the United States and abroad.
And I would say bipartisanship, cybersecurity, especially the private sector, reauthorize the WMD office at DHS, renew 702, keep INA able to do some collection with constitutional protections, extend authorities to counter unmanned aerial systems, reauthorize CFATs, and reauthorize Section 702 with the changes that Mr. Greenway and I agreed should be looked at.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
The gentleman yields.